They really did. By everything that we've heard in the media, for people not to believe that they had some type of cheating, I have no reason to think that what 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝘀𝗀 was saying in that locker room about that specific play was a lie. He doesn't look like a guy that's going to lie. He actually looked like he was kind of thrown off by the question that got asked him. Did you see the Connor Stalions thing? And we all know that look where it's like you kind of just laugh to yourself, and it's just in disbelief, right? That things like that would even happen. And you can just tell that like that was one of those things where it's like these dudes is cheating, you know? So until more comes out again, all signs point to everything being true that Michigan cheated in some capacity. Would it have helped them last year? Who knows? But definitely in 2022, I think we definitely all can be in agreement here. I don't like the way that this whole quarterback situation was handled up to this point too, because all signs pointed to 𝙁𝙤𝙡𝙀𝗀𝗡 being the starter, and all the marketing was to 𝙁𝙤𝙡𝙀𝙡 being the starter. And then now you put a walk-on in Davis Warren in a position to fail, basically, because 𝙁𝙤𝙡𝙀𝙡 was supposed to be the guy, which pisses me off that even happened. Michigan fans don't want to see Davis Warren again, which is, you know, I talked about this a little bit, but we're going to harp on it again because it's a new segment now, and I'm about to go in. Michigan fans want to change this whole formula up with not letting these guys become their own guy. I'm sorry. We could think back to the Cade McNamara and JJ McCarthy days. Everybody wanted Cade McNamara going, but then he got you, you know, I believe they got them a bowl win, and he looked pretty good that year. And then the next thing you know is when JJ McCarthy comes in for a couple snaps, everybody's like, he's definitely the guy. And then the next year they handled in the quarterback competition to see who the guy was, and then there was JJ McCarthy. And then the next year he wins a national championship, right? I get it. But the way that it's handled, the psyche of a player, you have to build confidence in. And I think that's something that Sherrone Moore is going to have to learn very, very quickly. The other thing, we could talk about the running game all you want to, but Donovan Edwards is not the guy. He's better in a two-back system. So you might as well just put it in the fact that... I'm just saying,
next year the Rams have the opportunity to do the funniest shit.
They do. But Khalil Mullings needs to get more of the load as well. I mean, especially helping if Davis Warren is going to be your quarterback, having him throw 33 passes and only 22 runs is the opposite philosophy of what you've been taught by Jim Harbaugh, and it's absolutely outrageous of why that is when you have apparently a really great running back and a guy that's trying to get his feet under him and trying to make a name for himself after what Blake Corum has done there in Khalil Mullings, which I think he could be a pretty good running back as well. So why are we not using that system again? Again, I guess Sherrone Moore is trying to do his own thing for Michigan, but I think it's totally asinine that you're not using the formula that worked with you before. Your defense is obviously going to be the ones that are going to shine here. Losing 6 offensive linemen in the draft is no joke. So you already know that you're going to have deficiency there. Again, putting Davis Warren in that situation. Having 𝙁𝙤𝙡𝙀𝙀𝗀𝗡 being brought out to run the ball is... You just tell everybody your game plan when he comes out on the field. I never understood a 2-quarterback system unless they're going to be dynamic both ways. But... it's obvious every single time 𝙁𝙤𝙡𝙀𝙀𝗀𝗡 is on the field, he's going to run the ball. He doesn't have a pass in the game against Texas, so you didn't show that there was any variation on what he was going to do when he was out there. Colson Loveland, again, we said this time and time again, if that dude goes down, you guys are going to be even more trash than what you showed against Texas. I saw no fight out of this team. I saw no coaching adjustments. And to be quite frank, this is what we talked about last year when, you know, we said, I wonder what it would have looked like in the college football playoff if Texas was to have played in Michigan last year. Would their national championship hopes have, you know, suffered? I mean, Byron Murphy was on that team last year. You know, guys like that. What was the linebacker's name? Khalid out was the Jalen Ford, who a lot of people had Jalen Ford as like their number one linebacker even before the season started. And we saw how that played out, right? Like the Adrian Coopers of the world come out of nowhere, and not to Khalid, but to us, come out of nowhere and kind of shock the world on how good that dude is.
Like, I've been known about this.
So I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are overrated now. You guys are going to lose probably pretty bad to Ohio State because they look like they're just about to shove it down people's throats for the rest of the year. That kid Jeremiah Smith is the is the real deal.
Yep.
And Alabama's got their own young guy down there too, who's 17 years old, that's going absolutely crazy. But it's not about them. It's about y'all at this point in time. I don't see this being I see this being the type of season that TCU had after they went to the national championship. Yeah. I really do. I see that being this deep of a downfall. And unfortunately for y'all, you got the Pac-12 teams that were good that have come over to this division that's going to make it, or this conference that is going to make it even harder for you guys. So I've said it once before, and I'll say it again. Michigan fans deserve this one. They talked the most shit all off season. They talked the most shit last year. They're not humble. And they did not handle their national championship with grace. They didn't understand that there was holes and deficiencies in this team, and they just thought the same success that they had last year was automatically going to come over this year because Sherrone Moore was with Jim Harbaugh so much. I'm sorry. He's a great recruiter when it comes to tight ends and offensive linemen, i.e. why 6 of them got drafted and Colston Leveland is still there. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be a great head coach just because he was under the wing of Jim Harbaugh. This is absolutely outrageous, and they deserve every single loss. And I hate it for the kids that are there. This is nothing against Davis Warren and Colston Leveland and Samaj Morgan and Will Johnson and all those guys. This is just one of those things where it's bittersweet for us to see. As college football fans, we want the Michigans to be good, but when you have a fan base that's so sour and doesn't take their wins with any type of humble grace, well, of course we're going to be preying on your downfall. And unfortunately, this is going to be a rough, slow, very free falling off the skyscraper for you guys this year, and we're going to be laughing the whole way. You better pray that you guys make a bowl game, because I see you guys at 6 wins. I really do at this point, if you guys play like this the rest of the year. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. Going into the season, I had Michigan at 8-4, which, looking now after that performance, like you just mentioned, Dante, that seems pretty generous, 8-4, given just the state of some of these teams in the Big Ten. And they still have some guys, but like Josiah Stewart and Will Johnson on defense, Mason Graham. But the reality that Michigan fans have to accept moving forward, at least this year and probably next year, is that this team is rebuilding. They're not reloading like some teams after national championship. They are rebuilding. They are going from the ground up. They need to get back to development. They need to get back to recruiting and building a program from the ground up, because they don't seem to be at a spot where they can compete year in and year out the way things are. With the
I'm
guys
telling you right now,
roster.
Khalid, Arkansas State's going to be a hard game the way that they played Fresno State. I'm sorry. They just are. USC is a loss. Minnesota, they'll probably win that one. Washington, we still don't know what that team is. But the rest of this schedule is brutal. Illinois is going to play them hard.
The way I'm looking at it is struggles against Arkansas State, we'll see. I think USC will win. Minnesota, I think they can handle Minnesota. Washington's going to be a fight. Illinois is going to be a fight. Michigan State's going to be a fight.
The rest
Oregon,
of these
they
teams
lose. Indiana might be a fight.
No, Indiana's probably. I think Indiana's going to come in. I think they're one of the most underrated teams in the country.
They had a ton of transfers coming in from James Madison.
Who knows what Northwestern's going to look like, and then you got Ohio State at the end.
This could be a really
year.
This could be a 4-win year for them.
Quite honestly, it could be a 4-win season, and they could not make a bowl game.
Which is exactly what happened to TCU after they made the national championship. And after, and then, Michigan fans were clowning TCU for their drop off, and Michigan is about to have an
even though TCU beat them in the playoffs.
That's true. And that just, I think, goes to show the oddities that go inside a Michigan fan's mind. But
it just doesn't look good for a premier program that's the winningest program in college football history to have a downfall this way. And just imagine it like this, and we can lead into our Colorado segment. How come this is a team that always seems to find themselves in the most unfortunate situations. Appalachian State, before they were FBS school, came in and gave you one of the biggest upsets, if not the biggest in college football history. And then you win a national championship, and you might have one of the worst fall-offs that we ever seen from a national champion that we've ever seen in college football. To me, that's not a good resume to carry around. I wouldn't be pumping your chest about this. I mean, and then to add on top of that, the Connor Stallions and cheating allegations on top of that. If I was a Michigan fan, I'd be I'd shut up. I'd really just shut up and take this on the chin this year and humble yourself a little bit, because out of every team that's in the Big Ten, Ohio State has showed nothing but, regardless of how you feel about Ryan Day, they've always shown some type of consistency. You've never seen a fall off with Ohio State, and and I don't understand why Ohio State is so hated. I don't feel like that they're an annoying school to root against. Like, out of everything, the history of their quarterbacks, some of the great players that have come from there, back in my day, like the this is kind of crazy to say, but the Maurice Clarett situation and how that was handled, to see the fall off of one of the greatest running backs that we've never got to see play in the NFL that played for you guys. Like, out of everything, I'm rooting more for Ohio State to be the face of the Big Ten and not Michigan. And that's kind of sad to say, but like, it's the truth at this point. The way that you guys have carried yourself up to this point in time has been absolutely outrageous. And I would not be pumping my chest, especially after this year. And also put some respect on Davis Warren's name, because if that kid ends up being great, I got receipts on all you guys that said to bench this dude. Because I think there's something special there. The way that he showed perseverance, he could have gave up at the end of the game. He really could have. But he continued to play. And I don't understand when people say garbage time, because sometimes that's the way to at least prove to your teammates, like, I don't care if we're losing, we're still going to play these dudes hard. And that's exactly what I saw for Davis Warren. So if he ends up being good, the rest of the season, to get you guys some wins and put the team on your back, all the Michigan fans are like benching him. I got receipts, bro. I got receipts. I see what y'all doing. It's nasty work. Just like, I'm a Florida State fan, and it's hard to root for DJU right now. But I can tell you what, in the second half of games, whatever adjustments he's made, he's tried to keep us in the game. I'm not calling for his head just yet. I might have been frustrated and said, oh man, we should probably try somebody new. But like, you just don't give up on people whenever you see a spark of, life happening. And especially when you're losing, it's a lot easier to not pay attention as much to your favorite team playing and just ignore the good things that are happening on screen, because you're so clouded by the fact that you're getting your ass kicked. And I get it. It is hard, but we watched that game, and I was to be impressed with what Davis Warren was doing on the field. So if I'm a Michigan fan, I wouldn't give up on the kids so fast. If you had to be mad at anybody, be mad at Sharon Moore, and also be mad at Donovan Edwards for selling you a pipe dream. That dude shouldn't have been on the cover of College Football 25, by the way.
Facts. To add to the...
This just goes to show how lying can get you far, kids.
Yep.
Yeah. To kind of end off this segment, to add to the drop-off, the epic drop-off that Michigan is about to have, your biggest game each season is against Ohio State, and y'all have obviously Michigan's won the last three matchups with Connor Stallions around, and then in this past year in the midst of all of it. But before he got in town, since the turn of the century, Michigan has only beat Ohio State 3 times since the year 2000.
I was about to say, before
Connor Stallions, the last time it happened was in 200011.
Wasn't it like a 9-year streak or something?
Yeah, I believe it was 8 or 9. I think it was 8 years straight.
It was bad.
And now that whole thing has happened, now that Connor Stallions is gone and Harbaugh and the core of last year's roster are gone, and now that as you enter into this next era of Michigan football, you could be looking at another very long stretch of Buckeye dominance.
I believe it's happening.
Ohio State's not slowing down. They're recruiting at an elite level. They're playing at an elite level. Michigan has not recruited at an elite level. Even when Harbaugh was here, they just developed really well. And now, you got a long ways to go, Michigan. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, and you look at it of how you're saying, like, this isn't a retooling, this is a rebuild. It's one thing to, work under Jim Harbaugh, but to immediately replace him and expect immediate success, like what Michigan fans were saying was going to happen, it's blasphemy. It's impossible. We talk about how, before Kirby Smart and Jimbo Fisher, you had all these assistants of Saban that would leave and never beat him. And even then, Jimbo did it once and Kirby's done it twice in the span of, who knows how many years of the assistants. And we're talking about, like, Harbaugh was great. Harbaugh was a good coach. But we're talking about the greatest college football coach of Nick Saban and the legacy tree that he built. It took time for those guys to develop. Even Kirby Smart, his first year, he went 7-5 and lost against Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Nick Saban himself went 6-6 or like 6-7 his first year.
And you were expecting Sherrone Moore. You were expecting Sherrone Moore to immediately pick up the success and bring them back to the playoffs. Yes, he's good at recruiting the offensive line and tight ends, but that's about it. As much fun as we make of Ryan Day and Brian Hartline's like play calling and whatever, they're at least good at recruiting. Brian Hartline's got the easiest job of just keep bringing us the number one wide receiver in every class, and he does. Now you got Chip Kelly, and looking at that run game, there are recruiters all over that place right now for Ohio State.
And we saw that flower started to bloom last week with the running game. And they're just going to get better.
And unfortunately, one of them, I think Judkins had a 90-something that got called back.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 80 or 90. It was somewhere in between there, but still, it got called back. But yeah, as much as people wanted to clown on his week 1 performance.
Yeah, and to add to that list of coaches, I mean, the coach that just beat them, Steve Sarkisian, went 5-7 in his first year, and he was also a former Saban assistant who beat Saban last year.
Oh yes, and that is fair. That's on me for not saying Stark.
That's another person, right? And he went 5-7 his first year in Austin, and now look at what kind of program Texas is. So Michigan, you're going to have to go through. You're going to have to get down and dirty into this rebuild because it's not going to be pretty, especially
it's
in
not a
year one
retool. It's a rebuild.
Harbaugh. Yeah,